Earlier this year, AEW started their streaming deal with Max. In addition to putting up their weekly Dynamites and Collisions, AEW has put their entire back catalog up on Max. For those who are maybe just now starting AEW from the beginning, I'm here to assist you in examining 4 of the top major feuds, with a nod to a 5th that helped build AEW's foundation. Hello y'all, Benza Lance here. Before we get started, make sure to do that follow, like, subscribe, and share gimmicks. Since 2019, AEW has been crafting narratives that straddle the line between reality and kayfabe. Some stories have been more well executed than others. Some stories may have had some unclear narrative devices at the time that, viewed through today's lens, we can see those plot points a little bit more clearly. So in my opinion, here are the first 4, really 5, but we'll get to that one, major feuds that helped lay the foundation for AEW. Every great wrestling company needs its defining betrayal. For AEW, that moment came at Full Gear 2019. Picture the scene. Cody Rhodes locked in AEW World Champion Chris Jericho's Lion Tamer, refusing to submit in his quest for the title. At ringside, his trusted protege and friend Maxwell Jacob Friedman watches his mentor suffer. The stipulation for the match is if Cody loses, he cannot compete for the world title again. MJF, the self-proclaimed salt of the earth, throws in the towel for his friend, seemingly in an effort to save him. Moments later, that same towel might as well have been a dagger, as MJF delivered a devastating low blow to Cody, revealing his true colors. What followed was a masterclass in storytelling. MJF, the protege turned traitor, set nearly impossible conditions for Cody to earn a match against him. No touching until their eventual showdown, surviving 10 lashes on live television, and defeating the monster Wardlow in AEW's first ever steel cage match. Each of these stipulations would peel back another layer of both men's characters. The 10 lashes segment in particular transcended wrestling. It wasn't just about physical punishment. It was about pride, resilience, and the cost of revenge. Each lash told its story, with family and friends supporting Cody throughout his ordeal while MJF reveled in his former mentor's suffering. The steel cage match on the February 19th, 2020 edition of Dynamite that followed, featuring a spectacular moonsault from Cody off the top of the cage, demonstrated both Rose's determination and desperation. Their final confrontation at Revolution 2020 wrote the perfect ending. Both men have their underbosses in Arn Anderson and Wardlow at ringside. MJF's victory, achieved through underhanded tactics with his Dynamite Diamond ring, didn't just conclude a feud, it birthed the superstar. Through his rivalry, MJF established himself as one of wrestling's premier heels, while Cody showed us the price of trust betrayed. When Jon Moxley emerged at Double or Nothing 2019, he brought with him a sense of chaos and unpredictability that AEW desperately needed. Initially, Moxley set his sights on Kenny Omega. This short feud helped establish Moxley from the previous Dean Ambrose variant most of us had gotten accustomed to seeing in his time in WWE. However, it could be argued that the feud with Omega was but a pit stop on Moxley's one-way collision course with Chris Jericho, AEW's first world champion. But this wasn't just about a championship. It was about legitimacy. It was about proving AEW could create compelling television. The story peaked with one of wrestling's greatest swerves. After weeks of Jericho attempting to recruit Moxley to the inner circle, offering everything from expensive gifts to a Ford GT sports car, we got the infamous segment on the January 8th, 2020 Dynamite, where Moxley appeared to accept. When that expensive bottle of the bubbly shattered against Jericho's head, it was more than just a turn. It was the moment AEW proved it could deliver big-time professional wrestling moments. The Revolution 2020 World Championship match told the story of Jon Moxley's injured eye, inner circle interference, Moxley countering the Judas effect in a memorable spot, and ultimately the crowning of a new champion. The image of Moxley celebrating with the title, blood streaming down his face, quickly became one of AEW's defining images. Jericho had established the title's prestige. Now is Moxley's turn to carry the company forward. If single rivalries write wrestling's chapters, faction warfare writes its epics. The Elite versus the Inner Circle wasn't just about two groups fighting. It was ostensibly the first story about AEW's soul. Would it be defined by the Elite's revolutionary spirit, or the Inner Circle's more traditional wrestling ideology? This feud was so short that I almost didn't include it on the list, but in the early days of AEW, we all had to also deal with COVID and the lockdowns that came with it. Traversing a global pandemic is hard enough, but to keep a company in its infancy afloat almost seems like a fool's errand. Luckily for us, our fools involved took all that chicken shit, made it into a chicken salad, and spread it all across TIAA Stadium in Jacksonville on May 23, 2020. Yup. This feud is on here almost solely for the innovative Stadium Stampede match at Double or Nothing 2020. This match, in particular, showed AEW's ability to adapt and innovate, featuring everything from Matt Hardy's Pool of Reincarnation, to Hangman Page's horse entrance, to Kenny Omega performing his One-Winged Angel and Sammy Guevara from the stadium seats onto a platform below to win the match for his team. For a jump forward in history, every Blood and Guts match and every Stadium Stampede match that AEW has produced outside of one of these teams has been involved in every single one of those matches. Whether as one of their variants of the Inner Circle, the Elite, the Jericho Appreciation Society, the Golden Elite, these men set the standard for the multi-man mayhem that would become a pillar of AEW. In professional wrestling, some rivalries are defined by championships, others by betrayal, but sometimes a rivalry transcends these traditional boundaries, becoming something that changes an entire division. The feud between Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker wasn't just about who was better. It was about proving what women's wrestling in AEW could be. On February 3rd, 2021 at Beach Break, these two women first clashed in a singles match that would plant the seeds for wrestling history. Britt Baker was ascending as the division's top heel, while Thunder Rosa was still establishing herself in AEW after having initially debuted as the NWA Women's Champion. Their styles immediately showed a perfect contrast. Baker's calculating precision against Rosa's striking-based offense. Specifically, Baker targets Rosa's back throughout this match, a strategy that would become a recurring theme in their relationship. With some help from Rebel and her trusty crutch, Baker secured the victory with her lockjaw submission. But this wasn't the end, it was only just the beginning. March 17th, 2021. St. Patrick's Day Slam, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Britt Baker's hometown. For the first time ever, women would main event AEW Dynamite in a lights out match. But what happened that night wasn't just historic, it was revolutionary. Before the bell could even ring, Rosa and Baker were throwing hands. This wasn't going to be a wrestling match. It was going to be a fight. They brawled through the crowd, setting the tone for what was to come. Tables? Those were just the appetizers. Ladders? A mere aperitif. It was when the thumbtacks came out that this match entered legendary territory. As Baker is being driven face first into the thumbtacks, the crowd's reaction tells you everything. But they weren't done. The image of Baker, face covered in blood, still fighting, still defiant, became iconic the moment it happened. When Thunder Rosa finally secured the victory with a Fire Thunder driver onto thumbtacks, it wasn't just a win, it was a statement. Women's wrestling at AEW would never be the same. For the other big canonical part of this feud, we do fast forward to Revolution 2022. These two ladies would meet again, this time with the AEW Women's Championship on the line. But this wasn't just another match. This was about proving they could deliver without the hardcore elements that defined their most famous encounter. Defending champion Baker was still targeting the back, Rosa working to prevent the lockjaw. In the end, Rebel and Jamie Hayter would ensure that Baker would retain in what is remembered as a women's feud that elevated the division to a bigger spotlight. However, we would wait less than 2 weeks for their next encounter. The March 16, 2022 St. Patrick's Day Slam episode of Dynamite featured AEW Women's Champion Britt Baker defending against Thunder one more time, this time inside of a steel cage. In my opinion, this is a fantastic end to their trilogy. A year after these two ladies had set the industry on fire with their Lights Out match, their saga is completed as Thunder Rosa finishes her story in her adopted hometown of San Antonio, Texas, and finally wins the AEW Women's Championship. Professional wrestling is at its best when it pushes boundaries, when it changes our expectations, when it forces us to rethink what is possible. Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker didn't just have great matches. They changed the game. They proved that women's wrestling deserved the spotlight not because they were women, but because they were capable of delivering compelling, physical, unforgettable professional wrestling. In the end, this wasn't just a feud about who was better. It was about two wrestlers who dared to dream bigger, fight harder, and reach higher. And in doing so, they didn't just elevate themselves. They elevated an entire division. What ties all these feuds together isn't just their quality. It's their importance to the development of AEW. Each one pushed boundaries and established stars. The MJF vs. Cody story showed that AEW could build new stars, as MJF would emerge as a generational talent. Jericho and Moxley proved that AEW could produce compelling main event storylines centered around the title picture. Out of this storyline, AEW would move from arguably the biggest household name in the company at the time, Jericho, to the man who would arguably become the face of the company in Moxley. The Elite and Inner Circle feud showed how to execute long-term faction warfare with multiple personalities and sub-storylines taking place simultaneously. Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa showed AEW and the wrestling landscape at large that women could and should be main eventing programs and having high-caliber storylines. More importantly, these feuds demonstrated AEW's range as a promotion. From personal betrayal to championship pursuits, from faction warfare to barrier-breaking violence. These rivalries show different aspects of what professional wrestling could be. They remind us that at its best, professional wrestling isn't just about who wins or loses. It's about the stories we tell, the moments we create, and the legends we build along the way. These weren't just great feuds. These were the foundation upon which AEW built its house. Now, I did mention one more feud that encapsulates AEW's early stages and potentially the company as a whole more so than any other feud. I'm talking about Kenny Omega versus Hangman Adam Page. The saga between the Best Bout Machine and the anxious millennial cowboy ran for almost 3 years across multiple types of media platforms and cemented Hangman Adam Page's status as a main character upon its completion. I didn't include that feud in this video because I have actually covered the Omega Hangman feud in much more detail in my Feud Rewind podcast series. You can listen to that audio-only episode either here on YouTube, link in the description for that episode, or you can also find Feud Rewind on all your podcasting platforms. I implore you to give that a listen, as that feud is what really anchored me in as an AEW fan. And with that, video essay done. If you made it to the end, you're a real one, and I love you for it. I hope you enjoyed our journey back through AEW's early stages. If you like this video, please feel free to check out some of my other ones. I would greatly appreciate it. Once again, Ben's the Lance here, and I'll catch you on the other side of the dime. Peace.